Traces in 3 words. I would say innovation.
Challenge.
Responsibility.
C'est la mémoire d'un futur imparfait, mais qu'on peut encore changer.
Ce brouillon de mes pensées qui se retrouve dans ce livre finit par devenir une clarté d'esprit. Rapidement, la main s'est mise à dessiner une couleur ambre avec des humains et une murmuration.
And really exciting to dive into the project, not knowing what it's going to look like in the end, and just hoping it's going to work, and the result is going to be amazing. The message behind it is really strong, so you need to have a really tight team of people working on it.
Traces is a shared work, a shared creation that only was able to emerge and appear because of discussions, exchanges, disagreements, and agreements.
The discussion and the mindset was eye level. So after that, it's easy for us to bring the technical part at a high level too.
The story for Traces appeared when thinking of how to suspend time for a moment. I think that we have a very, very accelerated lives, and unfortunately we also have a very accelerated loss of species and habitats. And what we do is that we're projecting in the future this disappearance of species that's at such a high rate that fossilization occurs in live motion, in moments of action, of movement.
C'est vraiment une critique du présent, des actions passées, des actions à prendre à travers une sorte de collision des temps. C'est une métaphore pour la disparition possible de toutes les espèces animales, mais on a retenu les oiseaux comme métaphore ou comme symbole d'une disparition qui nous affecterait tous.
Donc le but, c'est pas de jeter une morale ou d'être négatif, mais c'est de réfléchir à l'impact et les traces qu'on laisse. A lot of the steps, it took an enormous amount of prototyping, of discovery, of failures, of starting. But again, I mean, that whole process was so interesting because it's part of how we're dealing with our environment once again.
We had a vision, but we had no idea how to make it.
Prototype is part of every installation. Some of them are pretty easy. They're mechanical. They're not chemical.
The technical challenges allowed for a greater expression of the intent. We were inspired by the notion of amber because amber is part of a collective memory for all races, all humans.
Birds became a vehicle towards abstraction.
This fragile living being, which is symbolizing freedom, is then frozen. They are our protagonists.
Je pense que depuis le début, on a pressenti que le multimédia allait jouer un rôle dans le projet qui pouvait être celui, si le fossile incarne une mémoire, vraiment lui donne une forme plastique, le multimédia le ramène un peu à la vie.
We allowed the materials to express themselves. And so letting go and not trying to have control of everything is also symbolic of the way we want to act with other species in the world. The bird started as a drawing, as an intention, as a sketch that became a sculpture. And that clay sculpture was scanned in 3D, computerized. It then became a rendered model. And then that model was animated to have certain types of movements. And then once the selected movements were isolated, those were 3D printed of different scales, of different shapes, and then those had to be one by one positioned, anchored, suspended in a formwork that's void, so you have nothing to hold on to, and that you know that when you're going to pour your liquid into that, and there'll be all this animated movement, exothermic reaction, that they have to stay in place. And what happened is that there was a natural, spontaneous movement that emerged.
The exothermic reaction, so the heat that's generated by the medium once the two composites are mixed, the material changes went well beyond our expectations in terms of the beauty of the final artifact. The cracks we were getting, how the light hits the material and how it becomes translucent but not too much, and how we're seeing the birds within surpassed all expectations.
De travailler aussi des fois sur des principes qui sont par exemple celui de la répétition ou d'un motif qui soit sonore ou visuel. On a pu créer des jeux d'ombre qui sont devenus des micro stop motion à l'intérieur, comme un peu comme si on avait de l'animation image par image à l'intérieur de la boîte du sanctuaire. Il y a aussi ce tournoiement sans fin des oiseaux, un immense globe de verre que Karine Calife a peint de magnifique manière, en soi qui devient une sorte d'objet d'art qu'on ne voit pas, mais qui est l'objet d'art caché à l'intérieur du cube qui crée l'œuvre tout autour. Je pense que le son nécessairement participe lui aussi à donner une vie aux fossiles. On peut déployer ce narratif-là puis donner un accès comme une petite histoire qu'on ouvre pour le bénéfice des visiteurs. Si je pense par exemple à l'expérience de site, qui est l'expérience d'ouvrir un pupitre d'école pour découvrir à l'intérieur un drame qui est celui d'une catastrophe climatique.
I think this message is so important, it's so necessary, it's so close to each and every one of us for different reasons, that we all want to be part of it together.
On a travaillé toutes ces expériences-là, évidemment, de façon séparée, en gardant le souci d'une unité, mais quand même, il s'agissait d'expériences différentes. Et ce qui a été fantastique à la toute fin, comme le disait Rami, c'est qu'on s'est retrouvés devant toutes ces expériences-là réunies ensemble et toutes montées. Eh bien, ils formaient une famille. Et puis, il y avait une sorte d'émotion générale qui se dégageait de toutes les expériences réunies, qui était plus forte que la somme des parties.
And so each one of them frames a certain piece of a puzzle, right? Each one is a separate experience, and yet they all come together as one.
Everybody in the world has to know what is the message coming from that installation. It's a new industry. We're talking about touring installation. Touring installation means technically we have to bring some technical decision because we want to keep running that project forever. It is not just a one stop. It's the first. Dubai is the first stop. So when we see Agnès looking at the containers leaving, we know that it's not the end, it's the start.
I think we had amongst us a team and a client that respected the fact that expressing or having a message is a responsible and significant way for Canada to play a major role in an international event.
Donc, si dans l'exposition universelle de Dubaï, on arrive à teinter un peu l'expérience des visiteurs de cette beauté nostalgique-là, je pense qu'on va avoir réussi notre coup.
And to have that opportunity as a representation of a nation, whether it's innovative or not, I think for us is an enormous honor.